I would like to start with giving the credits to Alex. What the hell she played in the first set. She was smashing the ball and she was cleaning the lines and all that. So, wow, it's a next generation coming. That she's gonna come up and she's gonna be really good in a couple of years. So, first of all, big credit to her.
Just when everyone thought the road to Wimbledon was already set, a wild card from Berlin flips the entire conversation. Alex Eala's name enters the picture in a way that feels sudden, almost strategically placed. There's no obvious warning, no public buildup, just a decision that raises more questions than answers. And the closer you look at the timing, the more unusual it becomes. So why now, and what part of this story is still being kept quiet?
Jessica, there have been times where you've been tasked to put together a puzzle. There are a lot of pieces to the puzzle tonight, but you finished it and you're through to the finals of the Miami Open. How does that sound?
Oh, amazing. I'm so tired. So tired.
Okay, we're going to let you get off court, but real quick, caught off guard, to say the least. She was going for broke, had nothing to lose. She pushed you to the limits tonight, but you pulled it off. And how were you able? First of all, what do you think about her game? Look at her future.
Yeah, she's really good tennis player.
She was supposed to be grinding her way through qualifiers, fighting for every point just to earn a place at the table. That was the script. That was the ranking logic. That was the safe prediction everyone made without a second thought. But tennis, just like life, has a funny habit of tearing up the script at the exact moment everyone feels comfortable.
Alexandra Eala is selling out stadiums whether she's playing singles or doubles. Tournaments where the fan attendance wasn't that high in previous years. If I was a tournament director, I would do anything for her to be at my tournament. I'd also make sure that she's on schedule every day, so doubles and singles, because then people come to watch Alex and then stay for more tennis. But yeah, you can see it in the crowd numbers whether Alex is playing or not. The Filipinos are showing up for their girl, and I love it.
Out of nowhere, with Wimbledon pressure building in the background and the grass court season moving like a runaway train, Alex Eala's name gets thrown into Berlin's main draw conversation through a wild card that nobody really had on their bingo card. And the strange part is not just that it happened, but how quietly it slipped into the system before the entire tennis world started reacting like they had missed a headline hiding in plain sight.
I think her opponent is a very experienced player, and I think Alex definitely handled the center court very well. She had some resistance, especially in the second set. I thought the Thai player Naklo did a very good job battling and trying to compete back, but I think that's also what makes Alex great. She was able to not only respond very well, but close it out, which I think was very important for her. Absolutely, yeah. She's still young, so she obviously has a lot of success this past year. But one thing I love about her. She does continue to think about growing and getting better and improving herself.
To understand why this matters, you have to picture what she was just coming out of, the kind of stretch that tests not only a player's form, but their entire belief in timing and momentum. One week, you are adjusting from clay, trying to find rhythm on a surface that refuses to cooperate, and the next week, you are expected to suddenly switch gears and perform on grass that behaves like it has its own personality. Most players struggle with that transition longer than they admit publicly, even the ones ranked far higher.
Is anyone else living for Alex Eala's run at the Miami Open right now? Eala just defeated Madison Keys in straight sets to get to the fourth round of the tournament. She also becomes the first WTA Filipino player to defeat a former and current Grand Slam champion, and also get her first top 10 win. But that's not all. She's also allegedly dating Coleman Wong. Yes, that Coleman Wong. The Coleman Wong who defeated Ben Shelton to get the biggest win of a player from Hong Kong.
And yet, in the midst of all that uncertainty, something begins to shift around her, resulting in a way that feels almost too convenient to ignore. Wins start stacking where people expected hesitation. Matches start swinging in moments where experience usually takes over. And suddenly conversations that were never meant to include her begin circling her name with increasing curiosity. Then comes the twist that changes everything again, because Berlin does not hand out wild cards like souvenirs. This is a tournament that sits right before Wimbledon, where every entry spot carries weight, reputation, and expectation. Because in tennis, timing is never random. even when it looks random on the surface. What makes this even more intriguing is the contrast between expectation and reality. On paper, she was heading toward qualifiers, the long road, the extra matches, the extra fatigue before even reaching the main stage. But suddenly that entire path gets rerouted, and instead of fighting through early rounds just to survive the draw, she is placed directly into a setting where the spotlight is immediate and unforgiving.
So something about Alex Eala's game really impressed me today, and no, it wasn't her tennis skills, but it was her attitude. There was a point in the second set, I was just watching it, when she was down there, she was a break down, 4-2 down, and she was about to break back, get it on track at 4-3, when the umpire called replay the point. And rather than complain with the umpire, she just listened, got her head down and carried on. She went on to lose that game, and she was then 5-2 down.
And while fans are still trying to understand how that shift happened so quickly, the deeper layer of the story starts to reveal itself through what she has been doing behind the scenes. Because this is not just about one announcement, it is about a pattern that suggests momentum building in a very specific direction. There is always a moment in a player's season where perception starts to catch up with reality, and sometimes that moment arrives earlier than expected. One good run on grass, one unexpected level jump in confidence, and suddenly opponents stop viewing you as a developing talent and start preparing for you like a real threat. Every decision this close to Wimbledon is connected to preparation, form, confidence, and recovery cycles that players guard like secrets. So when a wild card drops at this exact moment, it does not just change a schedule, it disrupts expectations across the entire draw. And that disruption is exactly what makes this story worth watching closely, because now she is not just another name in the bracket, she is a variable that other players have to account for in a week where nobody wants surprises.
Yeah, I mean, I think you're right. Like, most people, including myself, didn't really have a lot of high expectations for her on the play just because her movement hasn't been the greatest on the play, and especially, I think, prior to Rome, the match that really showed me her weakness was probably the one against Leila in Stuttgart. I think that was where she felt more like she wasn't really able to impose her game at all in that match. But
the question that keeps hanging in the air is simple but impossible to ignore. Is this a reward for what has already been shown on court, or is it a signal that something bigger is being quietly built behind the scenes, something that has not fully revealed itself yet? Because if there is one thing tennis history teaches over and over again, it is that the players who get these unexpected doors opened for them right before a major tournament are rarely there by accident. And once that kind of opportunity appears, the entire narrative can shift in a matter of days. So now the stage is set, the wild card is locked in, the Berlin draw is waiting, and Wimbledon is looming just beyond it like a shadow that gets heavier every day. And the reality is that tennis does not really reward prediction, it rewards timing. The right form at the wrong moment disappears quietly. The wrong form at the right moment suddenly becomes a story. And somewhere in between those two extremes is where Berlin now places her, not as a background player anymore, but as someone whose next few matches will be measured differently from everything that came before.
The top seed here at Birmingham is Alexandra Eala, and the Philippine star did not disappoint. There were so many of her fans came to support her, and Alex Eala comfortably won a 6-love, 6-2. It felt like she'd been playing on this surface for years, but post-match I caught up with her in the courtside interview, and she told me she's working really hard on improving her grass court game and staying low to the ground. She was also surprised that she would have so many fans supporting her here in the crowd, but clearly she...
To understand why this shift matters so much, you have to zoom out from the announcement itself and look at what it interrupts. Because before Berlin entered the picture, her schedule was heading in a very different direction, one that most young players would recognize instantly. Qualifiers, early battles, physical drain, and the constant pressure of having to prove yourself before even reaching the main stage of a tournament. That path is not just physically demanding, it is mentally repetitive in a way that slowly eats at confidence if results do not come quickly enough. Every match becomes a test of survival rather than progression, and every round feels like it resets your status instead of building it. What makes this even more interesting is how quickly perceptions in tennis can shift based on a single tournament stretch. The surface itself does not forgive hesitation. The ball stays low, the rallies shorten, and decisions have to be made before comfort kicks in. That is why players who look average on clay can suddenly look dangerous on grass, and why players who dominate slow courts sometimes struggle to find their rhythm when everything speeds up.
Surprised at how much she's improved, even just within a few weeks with her performance in Rome. Specifically, also, yes, her movement is definitely too much better, especially in the corners where she usually had a lot of trouble when the opponents can push her wide. She just couldn't make an aggressive shot from that position.
In that environment, confidence is not just emotional, it becomes technical. It affects serve timing, return positioning, and even the willingness to step forward into the court instead of backing away. And this is where her recent stretch of matches becomes important because it suggests that adaptation is already happening, even if not everyone has fully registered it yet. There is a reason coaches and analysts pay so much attention to transition periods between surfaces. It is not just about fitness, it is about identity. A player has to temporarily forget what worked 2 weeks ago and trust patterns that feel uncomfortable at first. Most players hesitate during that phase. The ones who move quickly through it are the ones who start surprising higher-ranked opponents before anyone adjusts their expectations. That kind of recognition does something subtle but powerful. It changes how a player walks into matches. It changes how they interpret tight moments. It even changes how they respond after losing a point, because now there is a sense that they are not just trying to climb, they are already being watched differently.
I know you were mostly supporting Alex, but I have to say it is great to be on a crowded court. I've played this tournament for many years, and to see the stadium full, it means a lot. And also, like to thank Alex for bringing a new demographic to the sport. I really appreciate I think it's great. I know sometimes it's tough when you're playing against a home crowd, but I think that it's great for the sport. So keep being enthusiastic and keep rooting for your player. Yeah.
And in a sport where margins are razor thin, that shift in internal narrative can sometimes matter more than any tactical adjustment. Now, Berlin itself adds its own pressure to the equation. This is not a small stop on the calendar. It sits in a window where the world's best players are sharpening their games before Wimbledon, which means every match carries an undercurrent of intensity that casual viewers often miss. Players arriving there are not experimenting. The fascinating part is that she does not arrive in Berlin as a blank story anymore. She arrives with context already building around her. Recent grass court results, signs of momentum, and a growing sense that her game is starting to translate more consistently under fast conditions. That changes how opponents prepare. It also changes how pressure builds. Because now, every match is no longer just about expectation versus ranking. It becomes about whether the momentum is real or temporary.
Went to her chair, just sat down, focused, came back out, and won 5 straight games to take the second set 7-5 and ultimately win the match 6-2, 7-5. Really impressive mentality rather than moaning, focusing her energy on what she could control. And at the end, when I spoke to her, on my courtside interview, I did say to her, what impressed you about today? 2 words, my attitude. Great.
And that question, once it enters the conversation, starts to follow a player from point to point. There is also something else happening beneath the surface that often gets overlooked in stories like this, and it is the fatigue factor from rapid scheduling. Grass court seasons are short, compressed, and physically demanding in a way that does not always show immediately in results. Even when a player is winning, the accumulation of matches in a short period creates hidden strain, which is why the timing of this wildcard becomes even more significant. It removes the need for early qualifying matches, reduces physical overload, and gives a rare pocket of recovery time before stepping into the main draw intensity. That time is not just about rest, it is about recalibration. And in professional tennis, that kind of preparation window is often the difference between competing and contending. But even with all of that, Berlin will not be gentle. It will not care about narrative, momentum, or potential. It will test every weakness in real time and expose any inconsistency without hesitation.
Goes for her shots, takes the ball early, rips. Being a lefty is always tricky, competes really well. I mean, obviously she's beaten a lot of top players this week. I don't really think she needs me to tell her that she's a great player, that we're not going to see enough of her, but we definitely are. And she proved that tonight. I mean, that was really tough.
They're both alumni of the Rafa Nadal Academy and are about to give Tsitsidosa a run for their money. Which incidentally, Eala is playing Paula Badosa in the next round. The tennis gods are working overtime at the Miami Open.
That is why wildcard entries often create the most interesting early round dynamics, because they carry uncertainty. And uncertainty in tennis is dangerous when it is backed by form that is still evolving. So now the story reaches a very specific kind of tension. On one side, you have a player who has just been given an unexpected entry into one of the most competitive pre-Wimbledon events on the calendar. On the other side, you have a draw full of players who are already preparing for peak performance on grass. And somewhere between those two realities sits the question that now defines everything. Is this simply a fortunate entry into a strong tournament? Or is this the beginning of a stretch where everything she has been building finally starts to align at exactly the right time? Because if it is the second option, then Berlin is not the headline. Berlin is just the opening chapter of a much bigger story that nobody fully saw coming until the pieces quietly started falling into place.